My hair sits there on the kitchen table, wrapped in a crinkly blue plastic bag. Identity once, now discarded. Strands thin and wispy, honey brown at the edges, bleach leftovers from attempts at eccentricity. Now nothing but a mesh of consequences. Hair mixed with small twigs we broomed off of the terrace floor that bore breezy witness to an identity no longer wanting to conform, to centuries of conditioned crutches that had over time integrated with my sense of self. The collective reality of daily marginalization, devolving, intertwining, rearranging even this value proposition of selfhood. In the hyper-reality of the internet, the hive mind, furtively fueled by latent patriarchy, the existence of which liberals deny in left-leaning circles and call me out for calling them out, as we go through the circular motions of anecdotal reality. It is not strange then perhaps that my mother and I remember different versions of the same reality. The time I was forced to shave off my hair as a consenting adult. I was 13. Consent wasn't a part of my vocabulary yet, and my clothes, my hair were an undeniable part of my social capital. One that my young, stubborn mother grappling between motherhood and selfhood thought not much of, especially when set against the promise of a better tomorrow, a lush daughter, hair-wise, otherwise. Eventually, a sobbing but furious 13-year-old gave in to the sharp blade of the nai, who then erased her flimsy hair and self-esteem with equal abandon. That's why this time, I chose, and asked a friend who herself had shaved off her hair for the first time only months ago if she would shave mine. Because even as I turned 33, I carried the humiliation of the 13-year-old who thereafter, as punishment by the principal of her morally stringent convent school, was made to wear a wig to school every day till her hair grew back to acceptable length. Something that my father later made a joke out of as we walked past the lines of shops selling fake hair disguised as validation inside the cavernous gullies of Newmarket. Its typical smell of an old world where the working class realities still cross paths with the bourgeois dreams of Bengali intellectuals. Not in conflict yet. Those lanes were my first lessons of indoctrination into this atypical strain of identity politics that idiosyncratic Bengalis pride themselves over. My father, doting as he was, let me pick out a pair of fluorescent hair clips onto which I then latched on the very last strands of my self-expression as I used them to adorn the wig. Till one day, the conductor of the school bus, amused by this apparent paradox, blurted out, "But it's fake, no?" We remember different versions of this reality though, my mother and I. She ignores my repugnance and recalls the episode with fondness. Though she at first laughs uncharacteristically hysterically on seeing my neatly shaved head through the safe distance of a video call, and then quickly moves on to instructing me to find some old rag that I can burn and mix the ashes thereafter with some aloe vera and massage on my scalp. Something that I make a mental note of because somewhere I too harbor the desire for the statutory feminine, the one that nurtures, hair-wise, otherwise. One that I'm denying myself now in an attempt of deconstruction because the utopia of reconstruction holds in it the promise of realization, even if for one brief, unadulterated moment. That much like this sentence finds resplendence in just the possibility of circling back into itself. Unsurprisingly then, my unevenly cut 12 inches inside the crinkly blue plastic bag has rearranged itself into a bun-like assimilation, the kinds that beauticians use in bridal makeup, because tradition dictates that the thicker the mane, the lusher is the promise of childbirth you carry in the girth of that sexual identity. One that curiously Foucault postulates wasn't even a part of the identity discourse till such time rigid boundaries necessitated by the moral codes of nationalism needed to strong-arm gender politics to either conform or be ostracized. In such a world then, to be able to choose ostracization, where subversion is your key tool to conspiracy, is a privilege. Because even if for a blip in the space-time continuum, my indeterminacy makes me Laplace's demon, both on the inside and the outside, both the vigilante and the criminal. Identities which over time have become prescriptive rather than descriptive, willing, almost forcing the means to be the end, convincing the medium that it is the vessel, the fluidity, now drowned, in the heteropatriarchal binaries of the haves and the have-nots. Something that inevitably makes me question my want to be both and none, sometimes at the same time, and at other times to dull the urge to codify the multiplicity of the spectrum at one pivotal point, a point whose boundaries I had to give up on when my friend-turned-hairdresser made me watch the whole process on video while she guilelessly first butchered and then shaved off the very last strands of my approved identity. And in a twisted moment of surreality, my postmodern, caricatured version of self relished herself in an act of lustful culmination. The labyrinth of identity politics, for a brief moment, circular, anti-capitalist. I can apply body lotion on my scalp these days. The fear of greasy hair, no longer the measure of my self-worth. Shringar has a completely new meaning. Ab pehchano kapro se?